Okay, so recording. Let's start by going over. Let me know who has no experience with HTML, CSS whatsoever.
Me.
Me too.
Me.
Me too, I don't have it.
Like everybody.
Not everybody, because some of you are in 210, but
I'm guessing
most
you
of
have.
you. Okay, that's good. Very good. We can start from the very basics. Uh, First thing I'm gonna need you guys to do is download this piece of software here called Visual Studio Code. It's gonna help you write your HTML and CSS. Because HTML and CSS is just plain text, you could write it in Notepad if you wanted. You could create a new Notepad document just like this. If you double click that, um, you don't even have to type anything in there. If you just change that .txt extension to .html, then it'll basically be an HTML document. It'll be empty, but it's technically an HTML document. You can open that with your text editor like Notepad and just type anything in there, hello world, and then save it. And if you refresh this, it says hello world. But HTML also has specific tags for so HTML is a markup language, right? Hypertext markup language is what it stands for. And you have things like headings. So an H1 is a heading level 1, meaning it's the highest level heading, so most important heading. And then an H2 might be like a subheading. And usually HTML, these are also called HTML elements. So this is an element, this is an element. They usually go inside the body of the HTML document. So this whole thing would be the body element, this would be H1 element, this would be an H2 element, and these two would be children of the body. And usually you'll see it indented like this, so it's easier to read. So you know that these two are inside the body, or they are children of the body element. But these elements start with an opening tag and a closing tag. So here's the opening H1 tag and the closing H1 tag, the opening H2 tag, the closing H2 tag. Let me zoom in on that and tell me, someone that's brand new to this, what do you see that's different between the opening tag and the closing tag?
Just like a slash, like after
Yep, there's a forward
the
slash there.
closing.
So that's how you know something is a closing tag. But it's also important to know that sometimes some elements, like the image tag, don't have a closing tag. It's just one tag like this. If you want to add an image inside your document, this would be the image element. And elements sometimes have attributes. So the image element has the SRC or source attribute. And attributes are usually written with an equal sign and then pair quotes with the value that goes between. So the source attribute would tell the image what image to use. So maybe we have an image called pic1.jpg. So then this would display pic1.jpg, and you would need the source attribute to tell it which picture to use. This could also be a hyperlink. If I look at this right now, let me save it and refresh this, you can see stuff gets formatted. Let me zoom back out a little bit. We have our H1, we have our H2, and then we have this broken image because I don't really have a picture here called pic1.jpg. So it's like, what are you talking about? There's no pic1. If I inspect this, right click on it and say inspect, and we open this and we check the console, you'll see a little error message, failed to load resource, net error, file not found, pic1.jpg. It's telling us you can't find this pic1.jpg. But let's say I have a pic1.jpg. What's this? Let me just grab a picture from somewhere. What's this? There's a little picture. Let me just random picture. Let me just throw it on the desktop. So this has to be in the same folder as the HTML document. So this is our HTML document. This is the image. As long as they're together in the same folder. Right now they're on the desktop, so they're together. Let me actually put them in a folder together. My first website. Just throw these both inside here, so it's easier to see that they're together. And let's also call this index.html. So let me open that with Notepad again. You can see I renamed it to index.html because that's normally what you name your homepage of a website. Index.html is the home directory or the home page of any website that you visit. So you go to, I don't know, ebay.com. Maybe not eBay because it's more complicated, but I don't know, let's say inandout.com. And when you visit, you're not just going to inandout.com, you're going to inandout.com / index.html. You're basically opening this homepage whenever you visit. So anyway, just know that the homepage is usually called index.html, not home.html. And then this image is now here. So if I open this, oh, it's still broken. Oh, because we didn't call it pic1.jpg. So let's rename this to pic1.jpg. And then let's open this again. And then now you can see a little picture here. So let's put these side by side. Right, so here's our H1, our H2, and our image. And like I said, if you also use a hyperlink, that would work too. So if I Google, I don't know, Aston Martin, and we just click on a random image, and we say open image in a new tab. So we're just looking at the image by itself. Usually it has a link up here. It's supposed to end in .jpg. I'm not sure what this is that's thrown on top of it, but if we delete that, we still see the picture. So let's just take this link right here, www.astonmartin.com/media something something something, hero crop underscore 2 dot jpeg. Let's copy that, and instead of putting pic1 dot jpeg, let's paste in that link, and then let's open this again. Actually, that's the old one. Let's open this again, and now you can see that picture from this website is here. So you could use an absolute URL, or a URL. Well, it wouldn't be a URL. It would be a path to an image, like pic1.jpg, if it's in the same directory, or you could put a hyperlink. Now, if I put this image in a folder called images, pic1.jpg, put that inside this images folder, and let's save this. Now it's going to be broken again because it's looking for pic1.jpg inside this folder and it's not finding it. But if we tell it look inside images / pic1.jpg and save that and refresh this, you can see it works again. So you have to tell it exactly where that picture is when you're using the source attribute to grab a picture. And usually it'll be in the images folder. You wouldn't just throw all your files together. But typically a website is a collection of a bunch of files. So index.html might be one of the files that you have in there. You might have another one in there called, I don't know, contact.html. And then you might have a JavaScript folder because maybe you have some JavaScript in there to add some interactivity to your website. Or it might be you might be using some kind of JavaScript library. Then it'll be really complicated. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff in here. But a website is a collection of files. Now, these are local files. You won't see these on your computer. There's no way for you to go here because if you look here, it says C/users David desktop my first website index.html. So this is a local website. It's not hosted on the internet. No one has access to this except for me. If I wanted you guys to see this, I would have to upload it to a server. Okay, so that's where things like GoDaddy would come in. So if you go to one of these websites, click pricing, and well, GoDaddy offers a lot more than hosting, but if you click hosting, you can see they have web hosting here, $7.99 a month. That's typically how much web hosting costs. This is probably like a introductory plan. They probably charge you more after a while. Yeah, it renews at $7.99, but it's normally 10 bucks a month for like the most basic plan. I've been using Hostinger lately because I don't know, it's just cheaper. You go to the pricing, hosting. Where's the pricing? There it is. See, it's a lot cheaper. $249 a month, $369 a month for business. It renews at $13.99, and this one renews at $11.99. So I guess it's not much cheaper. It's about the same price once it renews. But you know, it lists what you get for that price. So a host is basically a computer that will you'll upload your files to. So all of this stuff, I would put it on the host computer. So it's just a company that has a bunch of computers or servers, and those computers are running 24/7, and they're connected to the internet, and they're running server software, and that's how other people will be able to visit your website. So once you have a host, you'll get a domain name. That's another thing you have to pay for, but it's much cheaper. It's probably like $12 a year. That'll be your .com. When you go to that .com, that's basically the address of your website on that server that they have for you. So that's how a website works. All websites work just like that. It's just a bunch of files that you upload to a server provided by a hosting company like Hostinger or GoDaddy. Um, yeah, and then you just upload your files. You get a domain name. People type in the domain name, and it takes them to that computer, and that computer shows them the files. Okay. Any questions? So that's called a client um, server relationship. You're the client when you're visiting a website. You're the client. Or I should say, your browser, your web browser, is the client, and then the server is the computer that the hosting company has that's serving you the website files. So you're the client, and the server serves these files to you. Sorry, questions?
Uh, my question was actually when you go to GoDaddy or something, so buying domain from GoDaddy or any other servers. So how you can put the images inside the website, like how you can create the shortcuts and images inside the website.
You just upload it just like you would. Because, okay, I'll show you an example since I have a Hostinger account. Let me just log in over here. And I have to use my two-factor authentication. Okay, so here's Hostinger, and they'll have different tabs you can go. You see they have like domain. The Hostinger also lets you buy domain names, your .coms. But you click on hosting, and you can see, I have premium hosting, which it's nice to have premium hosting, or maybe a step above the most basic, because then you could have multiple websites, not just one. You could see I have five, and none of them, or they're just there for playing around, right? Or showing you guys examples of how to do things, or testing, or building something for a client. I might build it on one of my accounts, and then once they set it up, I'll transfer it to them. But for example, you could see here we've got WordPress installed on a couple of the website servers. Um, let's go to this one, picnac.com. You'll see there's a file manager. If I click on that, see there's a public HTML. So this is where you would upload your files for people to see them. If I look here, see it's empty, and this was under picnac.com. So if I go to picnac.com, I don't know if I spelled that right. I think it's picnac.com. See, it's 403. Access to this resource is denied because it's empty. There's nothing in there. Yeah, that's the one, right? Picnac. Yeah. But if we go back to the file manager, let's just double click this real quick. And then let me upload. What do we have here, by the way? just a random little tree from Illustrator class. The contact.html is just a copy of that, I guess. Let me open that with Notepad, and let's just change this to say contact, and I'll add a little paragraph here. So a p tag would be a paragraph. This is the contact page. And by the way, the spaces are not important. Anything more than like a single space is ignored. So even like between words, like this is the contact page. If I put a huge space here, only one space is gonna get counted. So just to demonstrate, I'll close that, and then I'll double click this. You can see contact, and this is the contact page. Even though I added all that space, it doesn't really count anything more than a single space. Okay, so back to here. I'll just take all of this and then upload it right here. Right, and then let's try going to picnac.com again. Right, there you go. Now it just shows this. It's simple as that. Sometimes it's not as simple as that though. Sometimes you have things like what do you call it? Pipelines and continuous, what do you call it? Integration. I don't know. There's ways that people usually do this that it's not. I mean, if for a basic website, yeah, you'll just upload it. But for more complicated web application that uses more than HTML and CSS, it's usually connected to something like GitHub. And when you push changes to the GitHub, it somehow automatically updates this. And sometimes it needs to rebuild if you're using a JavaScript library like React or Vue. You first have to run a command to build the website. Anyway, but that's when you get into more advanced stuff. But that's it. It's at the end of the day though, when you do the build, it's just gonna give you a folder that you're gonna upload here. Like I can show you an example. Actually, I can't show you an example. It's not on this computer.
I just have another question though. How do you determine the sizes of the text or the placement of the image on the screen through the notepad?
That will be CSS.
Oh,
So
I see.
yeah, we need to use CSS to position things. If I inspect this right now, when you right click any website and inspect, you click elements up here, the first tab I guess, you'll see the HTML structure. And notice this has this HTML tag, it's got this head tag, it's got the body, the h1, the h2, the image. I only added, if you look here, I only added a body h1, h2. It automatically will add all of that for you. But normally you'll do it yourself. You're not gonna just put body. You're gonna actually the structure that you need is usually the HTML tag. And then you have the body inside that. Before the body you have the head. And the head is where you would put things like links to your CSS files, or maybe you're using a font that's not available on your computer. Maybe you're using a Google font. You might have a link to your Google font, which is basically another CSS link. But we'll talk about those later. But just know that that's what the head is for. Just metadata mostly. Things that you don't really see on the page. The stuff that you see on the page is going to be on the body, and then the head is just going to have like links and references and stuff. Um, yeah, and then CSS usually shows up here if you have any. Well, here it is actually. If I click here on the HTML tag, you could see here this is CSS. On this side it says styles. Now, even though I didn't add any CSS, there are default CSS styles that the browser you're using applies. So I'm using Chrome, and Chrome by default changes the, if you have an H1 like I have here for Hello World, you could see here the font size is 2em. So em is a unit in web design. It could be pixels, it could be percent, maybe not percentages. It could be pixels, EMs, REMs. I forget what all the other ones are, but usually it's you're either gonna see pixels or EMs or REMs for font sizes. And 2em just means double the size of um, the parent. So usually, well, let's see what's the paragraph size. Let's click on the Oh, I don't have a paragraph here, but I have an H2, and you can see the H2 is 1.5. If I added a paragraph here, we could see like the basic font size. This is a paragraph. Actually, even without a paragraph, I could just put something directly inside the body as well, without another tag. So this is the body. We have an H1, an H2, an image, and a paragraph. I could also just put some plain text in here. Some plain text in the body. And let's refresh this one. And you can see here, this is the paragraph, this is the plain text. They don't really look much different, but I'll explain how they are different in a bit. But if I right click and inspect the paragraph, you could see here the font size for that one. It doesn't really say, but I can tell you it's 1em. And it's probably like 16 pixels. And we have things like margins, display property. These are all CSS properties. The H1 is the CSS selector. So the way you style in CSS is you write H1, you have an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and then you have all these CSS properties controlling things like the size, the placement, the margins, the padding, the font size, the font weight, whether you want to capitalize or lowercase, or the color, the background color. All of that is controlled with CSS. But don't worry about the CSS yet. Let's just understand the HTML first. And then just know that there is default styling. That's why this is bigger than this, and this is bigger than this. So there is some automatic styles applied, but the point of a markup language like HTML is not really to style things for you, it's to mark things. So the importance of this H1 is that it's a level 1 heading. Think of it as if you were someone who can't see and you're using a screen reader to read you what's going on this page, and it tells you, okay, this is a heading 1, H1, so a blind person can tell that this is an important heading. This is a level 2 heading or a subheading. This is a basic paragraph. This is an image. Um, and if you're blind, the image is, you're not going to see the image. So another thing you might want to add to an image, besides the source attribute, you might want to add an alt attribute to describe the image. um, drawing of a yard with fence and tree. So it's um, good practice to include the alt attribute to describe the image. Right, in case the image didn't work, let's say I break the image by forgetting to add that it's supposed to be in the images folder, or I misspelled a name or something, so the image no longer works. You could see here it'll tell you that, okay, the image is broken, but at least it describes it for you. Okay, right. So again, this is picnac.com. All I had to do was upload the files there, and it shows that.
So your question again, how are you able to do the HTML file that you open up in Notepad?
Ah, once you change it to .html, if you double
Oh,
click,
okay.
it's gonna open in the browser, but if you right click, you could say open with Notepad.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Welcome. But again, a Notepad is disgusting to use for this, so please download Visual Studio Code. So go to code.visualstudio.com and click download for Windows. Or, I don't know, you're on a Mac, download for Mac. I doubt anyone's on Linux. By the way, the syllabus, I don't know if you guys have the syllabus, if someone sent it to you or not. You don't really need it. I mean, if you want to know what we're gonna cover in this class, I'll just let you know. But if you do really want the syllabus, let me know. I'll get it. I'll eventually post it in the Google Classroom. But basically, we're gonna be learning HTML and CSS. And I don't know what pace we're gonna go at, but I'll go at a pace where everyone can follow, and hopefully the ones that are already familiar with this don't get too bored. It shouldn't take too long to download VS Code, I don't think. So let me know once you have it downloaded. Just comment that you have
Professor,
it.
can you please repeat again, like how to download and everything?
Yeah, okay. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but let me see if I could go through the process for you. But here's the link. It's in the chat, and I'm gonna click download. Right, it's gonna download. Also, I should mention there's another one called Visual Studio. Don't download Visual Studio. Visual Studio is the purple one. I want you to download the blue one, Visual Studio Code. The difference is this is more heavy duty. It's more for coding in like C++, .NET framework and stuff. Visual Studio Code is more lightweight, more for HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You could probably do everything in Visual Studio Code that you can in Visual Studio. Most of it, the things, because Visual Studio Code also has plugins that you can install to add more functionality to it. But anyways, make sure you're getting Visual Studio Code not Visual Studio. Some other popular ones people like are what Sublime Text. Um, and the reason why I brought up the syllabus was because Dreamweaver is another one. Adobe, although I don't know anyone that uses it, so just use Visual Studio Code. It's free and it's popular. Everyone uses this one.
Oh, so we're going to be using that instead of Dreamweaver.
Yeah. Forget about Dreamweaver. It's the same thing. Except this is free and has a bunch of useful plugins you could easily download. I mean, Dreamweaver has plugins too, but this has everything you need, and any company you work at, they're probably gonna use this. Except my company, for some reason, we use PHP Storm, but that's also not free. Uh, Anyways, Visual Studio Code. Usually optional though. I mean, I don't think if you work for a company, they usually let you use whatever you're comfortable with. But if you follow tutorials online, you go on YouTube and say, how do you make a website? How do you do this, that? They're probably going to be using Visual Studio Code. I downloaded it, so let me click on it. Is it opening? Oh, there it is. Okay, so you're gonna click I accept, next. Oops. Okay, I accept, next, and you could just leave everything default, but I mean, if you want a shortcut, then go ahead and check that. There's add open with code action to Windows. If you're on Windows, I recommend you keep that checked. It's just useful because then you could right click and open with the code, and it'll open something with VS Code. And then you just click install, and that's it. Okay, I'm just gonna cancel this because I already have it. Although I might not have that version, I might have an older version. What is this? 1.85.1. What version do I have? I have 1.85.1. I already have the latest version too. So yeah, it's pointless downloading that for me. And does everyone have it downloaded at this point? Let me
Yes.
say, let me clear this so it's open folder. How do I clear this? I know, I'll just open it again. Alright, so when you first open it, you'll probably see something like this. And you can click new file, open folder, clone git repository. Don't worry about what that means, but eventually you'll learn what that is. Actually, for the students that have already learned HTML, CSS, maybe we'll get more into Git repositories this time. Um, Git repository is just an online place to upload your web design projects and programming and stuff. It's just a place to store project files that keeps track of the version history. So you could take snapshots of your project at different points, and then it just makes it easier to collaborate and to undo stuff, go back to a previous version of your project. That's what a Git repository is for. Okay, so you could go ahead and close this welcome screen. Remember how what happened to my here? Okay, so here, um, see how there's a public HTML, and inside that I have all these files for my website to work. When I visit picnac.com, it's really opening index.html. So if I just typed / index.html, same thing. You're gonna see the same page. Uh, so in VS Code, it's important. Well, it's gonna make you open a folder, right? Every time you're working on a new website or a new web application, you're gonna click open folder and then choose a home folder for your website. So all websites have a source directory. So in this case, let's just say it's this folder on the desktop, my first website. Select that folder, and then you could see your files inside. So you'll see open editors, my first website, the name of the folder that you opened. When you say open folder, you pick your folder. You're gonna see that folder name up here, the second tab here. And then inside that you can see your image, your JS folder if you have one, your contact.html, and your index.html. And notice how it looks much nicer here than it did in Notepad. See, open with Notepad. Here's Notepad. Here's VS Code. Now, which one's easier to read? Right. Notice this is going to be color coded. You've got your opening tags are all blue. Your opening and closing tags. Your attributes are going to be orange or red. Your attribute are going to be blue. The value is going to be different color. Plain text is just grayish white. And then another nice thing about this is it helps you. It has hinting for you. So let's say I'm trying to type in a new H1. As soon as I open the little arrow caret, it already has like a drop down of possible HTML tags I might want to add. And I start typing H, then gives me all the H1 through H6. These are all the headings. There's a head tag, a header, a horizontal rule, the HTML. I don't know what an H group is. I have no idea what that is. But HTML tag. HR is a horizontal rule. It's just a line. If you want to add like a line to break up your content. Now, why is this not opening? Oh, it opened here on the side. There's the horizontal rule. I'm gonna go ahead and close this other window so I don't get confused. Just keep everything here. And can close that one. Alright, so just have one Chrome open here. So you'll notice if you right click on your HTML file, you're not gonna see open with live server. I have a plugin installed that lets me do that. You'd have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is double clicking on it. And then you'll see that horizontal rule. And I'm zoomed in, so let me zoom back out to 100% here. By the way, I'm zooming in and out by holding the control button and scrolling my mouse wheel if you want to know how to do that. Okay, next thing we need to do is install a bunch of plugins to VS Code because it can be very useful. I don't know if by default it has a formatter or not. It used to not. What I mean is if let's say you know, do this, just mess it up a little bit. Remember the spaces don't matter. So this will work exactly the same as it did before. It's just much harder to read, right? Now if I go to view, turn on word wrap, so I don't have to scroll to the right, I can just see everything. You can see it just looks messy, but it's exactly the same. Nothing's changed. And notice it just went back to how it was. Once I hit Control S or save, file save, it automatically formats it so I could read better. Now, if yours does not do that, you probably don't have a formatter installed. So you just have to click on extensions, and the ones that I recommend you install right now are Prettier. So just type Prettier and then look for this icon and then click install. And that's what's formatting it for me. So that's what took it from this to this in an instant. It's also useful because let's say I messed up and I forgot to close one of these. You'll see first you'll notice red. Red tells you something's wrong. If I save it, you'll see here it didn't format it for me. Right, file save. It's not formatting it, and then I'm getting this bottom right corner. It's Prettier is giving me this red alert. I click on it, it tells me there's something wrong here. It says this is a paragraph, some plain text, blah blah blah. It tells me here. You just read through it. You'll see somewhere that unexpected closing tag P. It may happen when the tag has already been cloned. So it's just telling me there's something wrong here. And what's wrong is I forgot to close the what did I forget? The image. So as soon as I close that image up again, it's able to format it. Right, after you install Prettier, the other one I want you to install is Live Server. Live Server looks like this. And that's what's letting me, when I click on here, the Explorer, and I click on my first website, and I right click on index.html or any HTML, I have the option to open with Live Server, and that's what opens it up like this. It's just a quick way to preview your page. It's also useful because let's say I have these open side by side. If I make changes here, like for example, let's change, or let's just delete these paragraphs. Save that. See, it updates. As soon as I save it, it just updates it. And if let's say I fix this picture here, see, it updates it as soon as I press save. Live Server will do that. If you don't use Live Server, you just double click to open it. You have to click refresh to see the changes. But Live Server, serves it live, so automatically updates. Any questions so far? It's not confusing yet, is it?
No.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the rules in HTML. Again, it's a markup language, and there are many markup languages. HTML is just one of them. It's hypertext markup language. I put a forward slash, but that's not how you comment. If you want to comment in VS Code, you could press control forward slash, and it'll turn green. So when something is green, you know that it's just a comment. That means it's only there for whoever's looking at the code to help them understand what's going on. And it starts with this little arrow, exclamation, dash dash, and you end it with dash dash, a right arrow. That's a comment in HTML. In some other languages, JavaScript, I think forward slash would comment something out. That's why I put a forward slash. And also forward slash star forward slash. That would be for CSS. That's how you would comment. But in HTML, it's this. Notice if I don't close this with the dash dash arrow, everything else will stay green. So gotta make sure you add that to close it, so just that is commented out. Okay, what else? So HTML is a markup language. There are other markup languages. Sign-in code is orange. So some markup languages like XML, um, which is extensible markup language, um, those you can make up the tags. In HTML, the tags are already set, so they're already defined. There's a certain number of tags, like H1, H2, image. If you want to see all of them, good place to look would be W3 schools. And if you click on HTML, actually click on, what should we click on? Little menu here and look for HTML elements. And you'll see all the different HTML elements listed here. Actually, where's the list? HTML. Okay, so you have to scroll down to HTML references and look at HTML tag list. And here you'll see, okay, there it starts with, it defines a comment. Doc type defines the document type. There's a tag for hyperlinks. Abbreviation. The red ones are, what do you call it? They're not supported anymore. They're deprecated. So the red ones used to work, they don't work anymore. They've been replaced. But there's not really too many. I mean, there's a bunch, but here it's listed alphabetically. But most of them you're not gonna use. Like, for example, abbreviate. I don't know. I rarely use that, but you might want to use it. I mean, it adds this dotted underline, and then if you hover over it, it'll tell you what the abbreviation stands for. So there you go. Okay, so when I hover over it, down below it says World Health Organization, because that's the title that was added to the abbreviation. Um, let's go back. This one you'll use often. This one, the doc type, is not really HTML. Um, that goes outside of the HTML tag. Usually it goes up here. Doc type. It just tells tells the browser that you're using what version of HTML you're using. Now, even though it doesn't say the version here, it's HTML5. This is just how you say version 5, doc type HTML. But there's different versions of HTML. HTML5 is the latest, and it's been HTML5 for what, like at least 15 years. I don't know. It's been a long time. Maybe 10 years. I don't know. But that's the latest version, and there hasn't really been updates since HTML5. But if you want to see like the older types, it looks a little different. Like here's HTML4. You would have to say doc type HTML public blah 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 blah. XHTML. You have to put that in there. But luckily for HTML5, it's just doc type HTML. Another thing that VS Code is awesome for, and any what do you call it, advanced text editor, if you they'll usually have some shortcuts, but in this one it's exclamation tab. Just gives you your basic HTML boilerplate, basically the minimum that you need for an HTML document. It'll add it for you. You could also type HTML and then just click HTML5 here, and then it'll add it for you. So it's just adding the minimum stuff that you need. You need the doc type, you need the HTML tag, and it'll add language equals English for you. You have the head tag and the body tag. And notice it'll also add some stuff in the head for you, this meta tag for what character set you're using, UTF-8. I think the browser is gonna assume you're using UTF-8 anyway if you don't include this, but it includes it anyway. This one is for correctly scaling things. If you look at this on your phone, on a smaller device, it just makes sure the scale is correct. So, on a phone, things will be a little bit scaled up, so you're not looking like at a tiny version of what you see on the computer screen. And this is empty right now because I deleted everything and there's nothing in the body anymore. But go try that real quick. Exclamation tab, or just type HTML and then click 5. And this is just every page that you start with, you'll just start with this. So you don't have to memorize, all the meta tags and stuff. Like I don't memorize this or this. I'm used to just typing exclamation tab and getting all that. So let me give you a list of all the common HTML tags that you're gonna need. So the ones that you see here already: HTML, head, body, title. Let's go over what the title is for. If you right click and open this, the title is what shows up here. Hey, this is the title. You can see here it says, hey, this is the title up there. Also, like if you search for your site in Google, the title is gonna show up. Let's say I look for in and out In-N-Out burger, not now. Right up here it says In-N-Out burger. If we right click, inspect, and then we look for the head, and we look in there for the title. Where is it? It's buried in here somewhere.
Sir, you already went past through it. If you scroll up.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you
there
can
you
see
go.
here it says In-N-Out burger. Thank you. So that's the title. Um, these meta tags, like I said, this is just to define what character set you're using. I don't know too much about character sets, so don't ask me. But there's UTF-8, there's ASCII. Anyway, it's character set, and then this is again to let's see if I could show you an example of what this does. Let me add, say hello world. Let's add, actually above this, let's add a little list, create a little heading. A header, throwing a nav inside. These are meaningless right now. I mean, they're not meaningless. They have meaning. This is telling your document where the header is, but it's not really doing it. It's not adding any functionality. It's just a container. I'm just organizing by saying this is the header. I'm putting my navigation in there. Again, this is also not really doing anything. It's just telling Google or the browser that there's a navigation in here. And then these could be I could put a bunch of buttons in here. Just an A tag is how you create links, and with the href attribute you tell it where the link will take you. We have a contact.html, so let me just say contact.html, and notice how it auto completes it for me. It knows that there's a contact.html there, so it lets me finish it. And then here's where I'll just put contact. That's what you'll see. This is where it'll take you, and you use the A tag to create links. So let me just add that one inside the nav, and you can see here it just says contact, and it's underlined, it's purple. It's purple because I've already visited the page. But if I right click, inspect, and then let's do an empty cache and hard reload, I guess that's not enough. I have to actually delete my history, but it'll turn blue. If I haven't visited the link yet, it's gonna be blue, but if it's visited, it's gonna be purple. You could change that too though with CSS. Anyways, href contact.html. If I click it, we go to the contact page. This is the contact page. But normally your navigation is gonna have a bunch of buttons, not just a single one, and you could list them like this: about, about contact, I don't know, gallery. Notice how they're listed side by side, even though I have them on a single, on separate lines. Remember, spaces don't matter, so this is really the same as just putting them next to each other. If I save it, we get Prettier auto formats it for me. You guys probably you installed Prettier, right? And it's probably not formatting things for you. I forgot to tell you how to use Prettier. If you downloaded it, you scroll down a little bit, you'll see here it tells you if you press Command Shift P and then click Format Document, that's how it normally works. So Control or Command Shift P, you click Format Document, and then it formats it. But what I did is I went to my settings, preferences, settings, and you search for formatting. I put a check next to format on save, so it automatically reformats it every time I hit save. So if you want that same behavior, you can go to File, Preferences, Settings, and it's under Text Editor, Formatting, or you could just search Formatting, and then where did it go? Format on save. Okay, don't type formatting, type format, and you'll see it. Format on save, or just again use the little drop downs. Just go to text editor, formatting, and then you can close it. So if you're on a Mac, it's probably click on the VS Code icon and go to Preferences, Settings. On a Windows, it's File, Preferences, Settings. So if you want to do that real quick. What was I saying? Yeah, so your navigation, you could just place them like this in 3 separate A tags. But just like how the header and the nav aren't super necessary. I mean, if I didn't include these, I just put these here, it'll look exactly the same. They're still there. The whole point of these is just to add structure to your document and just to organize things. It's important for SEO purposes, search engine optimization. So if you want your website to be listed higher in Google search results, get better Google scores or whatever, you gotta make sure you do things like this, have it organized and neat. Another thing you would want to do is put these in an unordered list. But when you have an unordered list, for each list item, you need a list item tag or LI tag. So this would go in here, and then I'll have another LI for this one, and another LI for this one. So again, I'm further organizing things. I'm saying, what's this? Oops, I forgot to pull this in there. And sometimes I don't like the way it formats it. Better if it did that. Oh, why do we have an error? What are we missing? We're missing the L there. Oh, that's why that happened, because I don't have room. There. Okay, so now I have the header. Tells me that that's the header of the page. Tells me that this is the navigation of the page. And this unordered list, or UL, tells me that we have an unordered list here. Unordered as in it's not numbered. It's just a bulleted list. You could get rid of the bullets, but right now it's going to have bullets by default. And these are all list items. So the first list item is the link to the contact page. The second list item is the about. The third one is the gallery. Now it'll look a little different than it did before, because when you have an unordered list, this is how it displays it by default. Gives you a bulleted list. But through CSS you could have it show them side by side, and you could get rid of the bullet. But again, we'll get into the CSS later. But that's how a navigation will usually be created on a page. It will be a header with a navigation and a unordered list for each of the buttons. Okay, Prettier is giving me a red thing here. Let's click that. Let's see what's going on here. It's saying something's wrong with this last list item. What is wrong with it? Unexpected closing tag I. Oh, again I forgot the L. There we go. Save that, and the red thing goes away. Oh yeah, well, Kara, I know you already took this class, so it's a split class. That's why I'm going over all this again. But it is break time. It's 8 o'clock. So maybe that's enough for today for the beginners. Let you guys absorb what we talked about so far. Yeah, if you want, let me give you an assignment. Just create a basic HTML page. Anything at all. I recommend going to W3 Schools to explore the HTML. Let's see, scroll down to the well, you could also go through the little tutorial that they have if you want, but go through the reference HTML tag list, and then use a couple of these. Some of these, again, you're never gonna use, but some that are common are the ones that I mentioned already, like the H1 through H6, all the different heading levels, the paragraph, um, BR for single line break, if you want to break the text without creating a new paragraph. You can try, what else is common? Div, well, div is really for organizing. It's a way to group things together. Maybe use footer to add a footer to your page. You saw the H1 through H6, HR to add a line, image tag, practice with images since I showed you. List item, that's what goes inside the unordered or ordered list. By the way, bullets will change into numbers if you change the UL to an OL. That's the ordered list. You saw the nav, there's the OL. Paragraph. The ones I'm skipping over, A section is pretty much just like a div. It's just another way to organize things. If you want to have sections on your page, it doesn't do anything. It's just to group things together. Select is for a drop-down list, but kind of don't need that right now. Strong tag kind of does the same thing as the B tag, bold tag, except this has more semantic meaning. It's just saying you're putting strong emphasis around whatever you surround this with. Style is for creating internal CSS. We have not covered CSS yet, so don't worry about style. Table tag for creating a table. Text area for creating an area to type in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the important ones that I want you to try are the H1 through H6, the paragraph, the unordered list and the ordered list with the list items, the A tag or anchor tag for links, and the image tag. Try those out for your first page. And just create something very simple. I'll give you a better assignment next time. Right now, just absorb some of the information I went over, and let's take a break. Any questions?
No.
Okay, so break is 15 minutes. Let me um yeah, I haven't well yeah, I'll give you a link later. I haven't stopped recording yet obviously, but yeah, once I'm done at the end I'll give you the link. Let me pause. Yep, cascading style sheets. So the reason why it's called cascading, I guess, is because what does cascade mean? Because uh, you could um,
You could adjust
assign.
placement, right? Like the placement of it.
Um, I think it means like whenever you apply a style to something, the parent element, the child element also receives the styles. I don't know. What does? Hey, let's ask ChatGPT. Okay, never mind. I don't have logged in. So cascading mean to pass information by giving it just a few. Yeah, well, it's exactly what I said. I guess you assign styles to a parent element and the child element receives it. Yeah, they cascade down from several sources. Okay. So, for example, um, you have the HTML element that's the root of everything. If we, for example, say style equals color purple, then everything inside of it will be purple because it cascades down. Make that red just to see that it's different. Well, these guys don't want to get it because these are links, the anchor tags. Visited links are always going to be purple, so unless you specifically change them with CSS. Let's add a little bit of internal styles here real quick with the style element. And let's say for the A tags, let's say color green, green yellow, Let's see if that changes it. And it does. Let's do just visited. A visited. And that's how you could say what color you want the links that you visited to be. I mean, it's still gonna be that color because we visited all of these. But if I had deleted my history, uh, history, clear, and then we go back and refresh. Now you can see it's blue. But if I visit one of them and go back, oh, now they're all green. They're all green because they're all going to contact.html. I didn't actually change these to about and gallery. But yeah, now you can see just the contact is green. These I haven't visited yet, so they're still blue. Okay, let's go back to the quiz, which was here. So cascading style sheets is what CSS stands for. Question 2. What is the correct HTML for referring to an external style sheet?
Link rel.
Yep. Link rel equals style sheet type equals text slash CSS, and then the href points to the CSS file. Where in an HTML document is the correct place to refer to an external style sheet? Is it in the head? At
In
the
the head
end?
section, I think.
Body. Yeah, it's in the head. Same place where you would put the style element where we put this. If we're gonna link to it instead, we delete that and put a link. And the href equals wherever you placed your style sheet, you would put that there. And it goes in the head. It's inside the head. Okay, which tag is used to define an internal style sheet?
CSS or
Nope.
style?
Style.
Style.
Yeah, but it's what I had in there just a second ago. Which HTML attribute is used to define inline styles? It's not a trick question, it's still style. Right. There, style equals. That's the attribute for inline styles. Which is the correct CSS syntax. So when you're creating a CSS style,
Second one you said earlier, right?
yep,
Is it?
it's gonna be this one. You have your selector, your CSS property, and a value within curly brackets. How do you insert a comment in a CSS file? I don't know if you'll remember this one, but
The one with /star, I think is what you mentioned earlier.
yeah, it's that one. Although this works too in maybe in only in SCSS. Let's see, let's create a new style sheet. I'll create a new folder here, CSS. And inside there, let's create styles.css. And let's just have, I don't know, body, color, hashtag 222, font size 16 pixels. If I wanted to comment this, well, I know this will work. See, it already turned green, and then we terminate the comment star forward slash. If you do a forward slash, it's not gonna work here. But if this was a SCSS file, then it would work. So it works in SCSS, just not regular CSS. Also works in JavaScript files. So my script.js. I'm gonna let body equal document dot query selector body, just random selector here. But if you want to comment this out, it's double forward slash also. So the double forward slash works in JavaScript and SCSS. It's a single line comment. But it doesn't work in regular CSS. So the correct answer is this one. Which property is used to change the background color?
BG color.
That's what you would think, but no, it's background color.
Background.
BG color is let me duplicate this real quick. If you go to HTML attributes, let's go to the reference. HTML attributes. And you go to, see, there's a BG color attribute, but it's not supported in HTML5. So before CSS, that's how you would maybe change the background color. It would be an attribute, just like you have like width and height. Like we could still do, if you want to change the width of something, you could say width equals. Well, you used to be able to say BG color equals, but as you can see, it's red. Doesn't work anymore. So that's why that might be confusing. But in CSS, it's background color. So color for changing the text color, background color for changing the background color. Background dash color. Anyways, okay, let's move on to next question. How do you add background color for all H1 elements?
First one. No.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no such thing as dot all or all dot. It's just that H1 means any H1 is gonna have background color FFF or white. Which is probably used to change the text color of an element. I just showed you. It's this one. Color red. Changes the color to red. The text color. So it's color. Next. Which is probably controls text size.
font size.
Yep. Font dash size. Which is the correct CSS for making all the P elements bold. Yep, font weight. Font weight bold. How you display hyperlinks without an underline? Why is this thing here? Okay. So it's first one, correct. Text decoration, none. So these guys. Oh, never mind. Here we've got the underline. We don't want the underline. We just say A. Well, this will only work on the visited links, but we could say text decoration, none. And that doesn't work on visited, I guess. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so no text decoration. And let's change that to black. Contact about gallery, and you can see no underline because I added text decoration, none. Next. How do you make each word in a text start with a capital letter? It's actually text
That's the
transform.
form.
Yep. Capitalize. Which probably just change the font of an element. Font family. How do you make the text bold? I already asked us this. Font weight.
Okay.
How do you display a border like this? Top 10 pixels, bottom 5 pixels, left 20 pixels, right 1 pixel. Remember, it starts clockwise, starting from the top. So top, right, bottom, left. And top is supposed to be 10 pixels, so we know this one can't be right, so it's one of these three. Bottom, they said 5, but going clockwise, it's top, right, bottom, left. So right is supposed to
And
be
one
1. So it's gotta be just this one.
is the third. Yeah.
And which property just change the left margin of an element? This one's pretty obvious.
Margin left.
Yep. When using padding property, are you allowed to use negative values? No. That's a... You wouldn't really know that one for sure unless you tried it, but no, you can't have negative padding. You can have negative margin, but not padding. How do you make a list that lists its items with squares? List style type square. Remember, there's a whole bunch of them you can try. Like, just search list here. There you've got circle, or no, that I don't know if that one's called circle, but there's a square type, Got the Roman numerals. Yeah, circle, square, the style type upper Roman, lower alpha, ABCs. There's a bunch more, but the style type. How do you select an element with ID demo? Which one was the ID selector, remember?
Hashtag.
Yep. How do you select elements with class name test? That's the dot. How do you select all P elements inside a div element? This one you might not remember.
Div space.
Yep. Space. But what does this one do? Remember what this one would mean? This would mean a div with the class of P. And then this would mean um, a paragraph that's a sibling of a div. But anyways, this is the paragraph that's inside a div. How do you group selectors? Separate each selector with a space, separate each selector with a plus sign, or with a comma. Comma. So it just means if you're gonna have a selector, maybe not just the A's, but you also wanted the paragraphs and the H ones, you would separate with a comma, and then you could make all of them have this. What is the default value of the position property? I wonder if you remember that one. It's static. So by default, everything is position static. Once you change it to fixed, relative, or absolute, then you can start using the top, bottom, left, and right properties to move them depending on if you have fixed, relative, or absolutes selected. The top, left, bottom properties will do something different, but they won't work on static. Oh, and we got 100%. Nice. Okay, so let's let me close this and delete this. Let's create something brand new. I want to talk about maybe animations we didn't do enough of. I think I've had to do animations recently, creating some ads. I forgot what I did. Maybe we could do that. I'm gonna create a new folder. Call this CSS Animation. And let's open this with VS Code. So just create a new folder called CSS Animation. And then open that with VS Code. I know, we'll do a special offer. Or what was the ad that I worked on? Oh yeah, flashing. Okay, let's do this. Let's do like some neon lights. We'll do that. I'm gonna create a new index.html exclamation tab. Got our basic boilerplate. And hopefully you have all the plugins installed from before. If you don't, you need live server, you need prettier. If you have prettier, you need to go to preferences, settings, text editor, formatting, format on save, unless you feel like pressing command shift P every time you want to format and then clicking format document. And also live SAS compiler. This is very useful, and actually this is probably the mostly what we'll cover, the new stuff that we'll cover anyway. I think we talked about SAS before, but we'll make sure we use that in everything. I like using SAS as CSS. And you need this to compile it for you. So live SAS compiler, and let's create a new folder here called styles, and inside styles create a new file called styles.css, or let's call this CSS, not styles. I don't know, whatever you feel comfortable naming your style sheet folder. I'm gonna call it CSS and styles.css inside. And we have our HTML. Let's link it up. So we saw in the little quiz that we add the link tag to the head if we want to bring CSS. So link type equals text slash CSS. And that's the only part that you could leave out. It'll still work, but you definitely need rel equals style sheet and href equals dot / css styles.css. You don't really need the dot / dot / just means current folder. Right, and let's open this up side by side. Right, to check if it's linked up correctly, this style sheet here, go to your styles.css. Sorry, we're using SCSS. Let's rename this to SCSS. Does everyone have the compiler set up? If you don't, you're not gonna see this little S icon next to it. Um, but I mean, we could still write regular CSS in here. I'm just gonna say body background color. Let's change the color to, I don't know, coral, and save it. It didn't update, so I guess we didn't link it correctly. Oh, because I forgot I'm using, so who knows why it didn't work. Bonus points.
Yes, right.
Because of the SCSS?
Yeah, what specifically though? What do I need to do to make it work?
That
Put
one,
the S in
just
front.
else that CSS.
Huh?
Add some S to it.
No, that's not gonna work. No, we keep it CSS. But remember, the browser doesn't understand SCSS, so we still need to link to the regular style sheet CSS. The thing is, we only have an SCSS here, but why did we install Live SAS compiler? So we could compile SCSS to CSS, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but we're not compiling yet because we forgot to click watch SAS down here. So if you pay attention in the CSS folder, once I click watch SAS, you'll notice it added the CSS file for me. So you click watch SAS, so the plugin that we installed, Live SAS compiler, creates a CSS file out of your SCSS file. And now it changed. Okay, so we just needed to turn on the SAS compiler by clicking watch SAS. Um, yeah, and that basically, now we also have this CSS file here. This was auto-generated. You can see it added a little comment for me, but I didn't create this file. Live SAS compiler created it for me out of this file. And the main reason why I use the SAS instead of regular CSS, there's a lot of advantages, but mainly I can nest things, keep it more organized. What was I gonna create here? Oh yeah, let's create a little LED like the one I I just did it for, what is it? Easy Street Burgers. Have you guys been to Easy Street Burgers? It's pretty popular.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine, and he's just asked me to make the website for him. So Easy Street Burgers.com, and yeah, you got this flashing. Um, so we'll create something similar to that. So we need a dark background. Turn off the lights. Hashtag 222. And we need to create like an LED effect. I think we need some text here. Why don't we just put an H1? It says I don't know, Joe's Diner. Oops. Finer. And I wonder if we could find a Google font that looks like LEDs. How do we even look for it? Probably you have to look under um, display. Display fonts are the ones that are a little more creative. You could also Google it, maybe someone will have something that looks like neon lights. Let's see. Google font neon lights. This kinda, I guess. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's use this font called Tilt Neon. So we need this font, meaning we're gonna, well, it's only got one font weight, regular, so we select it. And we could either use the link or at import. I think I'd rather use at import. Copy that. And we go to our styles.scss. This has to always go at the very top. And we don't need the style tag, we just need the at import. Imports the Tilt Neon font from Google, and the name is Tilt Neon. We just copy that CSS rule to specify families, and we'll say font family Tilt Neon. Okay, and there's our neon font. Let's give it a neon color. I'll just type pink for now, and then let's adjust that. Let's make that more purpley. Make it really bright. The font weight, even though this doesn't have a bold, I think it made it bold since I put it in an H1. Let's see. If I change it to a paragraph, will it still be bold? No, you can see it's not as bold. So I'll keep it H1, but let's change the font weight to be normal. Oh, it doesn't change. Font weight. Okay, how about this? Let's make it a paragraph. It does, right? Like if you look here, the circle, it's closed, but whenever it's a paragraph, it's a little open. Let me zoom in on that. I can't really zoom in more than that. It looks like it's more, there's more of a gap there, so it's definitely making it bold.
Right.
Um, Font weight normal didn't change it because I'm adding it to body. I need to be more specific. We need to say H1. Font weight normal. There we go. Now let's also bump up the size. Font size, let's say 4 EM. let's go 6. And text align center. Okay. Next, I would like to. I wonder if I could go skinnier than normal. No, I think that's the skinniest we can get from this. I mean, the font doesn't even have a bold, it's just regular, but I guess it forces it to be bold. That's all we have. Let's add a box or not a box shadow, a text shadow. To where the shadow is gonna look like a glow by making it a bright color instead of a dark color. It'll look like a glow. So text shadow. Let's do 0, 0. And how much do you want to blur it? Let's say 5 pixels. And then what color? Let's do RGBA. Let me just put 255, 255, 255, 0.5. Let's start with that. Go white glow, but let's make that purple. Bump up the opacity so we can see it better. And let's try increasing the glow from the blur from 5 to like 20. Okay, yeah, it's more glowy. And then we could, let's try making this more white. Yeah, so don't be afraid to go really white with the color of the font itself, and then just make the glow more of the color that you want. And that sort of looks like neon lights, right? I'm sure there's more we could do, but it just ended at that. I mean, there's. Let's look at CSS filters. I wonder what filter we could use. We could use blur. If we use blur, this is what we could do. I wish we could make the the font skinnier. That would be nice, but since we can't, we could add an extra glow. Like we have the drop shadow, we could also blur the text with filter blur. Blur 5, let's say. Is that doing anything? I don't think that's doing anything. Oh, we have to add pixels, that's why. There we go. Alright. No blur. Blur. Let's try 2 pixels. 2 pixels. More purple. And then let's create a div and put this H1 inside there. And then create another H1. Or just duplicate this. And call it, call one of them, give it a class of glow. And then the other one will be the actual text. So we have 2 of them, right? But we're gonna use let's see, div. Let's give that div a class equals neon. Inside that we have a div h1 with a class of glow, and then another h1 that's doesn't have a class of glow. So we could say this h1 that's inside the div with the class of neon, and this h1 with the class of glow. You can see now this one is the only one that these styles are applied to, because this one is the only one that has the class of glow. But we could say this. We'd say h1. We want both of them to have everything. Well, that's weird. What happened there? Okay, I guess it was highlighted or something. Anyways, we want both of them to have the same font weight, the same font size, and the text align center. The only thing I don't want is the text shadow and the filter on this one. So I'll just add an end, and again, this is where the SCSS is coming in. You can't really do this in normal CSS. We're gonna say and dot glow. So just the one that has the class of glow, I want the text shadow and the filter on it. Okay. I think it makes more sense to put this after here. So both H1s have the same font weight, font size, text align, but the one that has the class of glow is gonna have the text shadow and the filter. Right? And then I want the other one to be position not static but absolute. That way they're gonna be on top of each other. I guess both of them can have position absolute. The text align center doesn't really work anymore on position absolute, unless we add width of 100%. Okay. I don't know, that didn't really add much. All that work, I was trying to add a second glow. Oh wait, well, we forgot. Let's make the regular H1 have a different color. So this color belongs here. So color will be white. But the color for the one with the glow will be more purple. And let's blur it 1 pixel. I don't think it's really adding much to it, but whatever. I was trying to add the drop shadow blur and then another glow on top of it with the blur filter, but all that didn't really add much to it. Anyway, let's just stick with that. And let's add a couple spans around a couple of the letters. Actually, I'll do that at the end. Okay. Right now, let's just add the animation. So to add an animation in CSS, we need to, let's just add at the bottom here somewhere, add add keyframes. Add keyframes, flicker. Let's call it flicker because that's what it's gonna do. And what's gonna happen in the flicker? We're gonna go from 0% opacity 1 to 1%, opacity, let's say 0.5, and then at 2%, it's gonna be 1 again, right? And then maybe it'll happen again. This whole going from opacity 1 to 0.5 to 1. Let's copy paste it, but let's change it to, instead of 0%, say it happens again at 15%, 16%, and 17%. And then again at let's say 21%, 22%, and then 23%. And then one more time at 76%, 77, 78%. And then one more time at 95 or 96, 97, and 98. Anyways, so throughout the animation, we're gonna have this flicker. It's gonna go from opacity 1 to 0.5 to 1. And then, so it'll happen at from 0 to 2%, and then from 15 to 17%, and then from 21 to 23, 76 to 78, and then 96 to 98. So that's like, well, 4 times it's gonna flicker. And we'll add that animation of the flicker to the neon div. So we'll just say animation flicker, and how many seconds do you want the whole animation to last? Let's say 5 seconds. And do you want it to be infinite? Yes, we do. I mean, how many times do you want it to repeat? Let's say 4 times. Okay, let's say 1 time, just for the first time we look at it. Flicker 5 seconds, repeat 1 time, linear. Linear meaning there's no like easing in the animation. We don't really need easing in or out, going from 0 to 0.5. Now you can see here it's flickering. But there's a huge, well, it stopped. It stopped because we said 1 time. If we said infinite, it'll just keep flickering. If we made it last 1 second instead of 5 seconds, it'll just be flickering more constantly. I mean, it would be more obvious if I did 0 instead of 0.5. Or let's do 0 for like one of them. Right, so now we have this like flickering light animation. If you want it to flicker, this is the thing I said I would add at the end. Let's do like one letter at a time, not have all of it flicker together. We could wrap some spans around some of the letters. Like maybe around the O we'll add a span. Put the O in there. And then maybe wrap another span around the I. I mean, right now it's not going to look any different, but if we go here and instead of applying the animation to the whole div, let's apply it to just the span inside the H1. So now only the O and the I are flickering. And maybe we could say for the O and the I, we want that to flicker for 2 seconds. And then the rest of the H1, maybe we'll do 5 seconds. That way, it'll be a little bit more uneven. Right? More variation in there. Anyway, that's a simple like flicker animation. I could simplify this honestly. Let's get rid of the extra H1 I added, or this one, anyways, and the div. Get rid of that div. I don't think it was adding much to it anyway. Oops. Let's go back here. This is no longer in a div, so get rid of that. And we no longer have a class of glow, so get rid of that. And we don't want the blur anymore, so let's get rid of that. And let's just change the color to white again. Oh. Yeah, it wasn't really adding much to it, and it was just making it more complicated for no reason. Cool. I wonder if there's better fonts for this. Google font neon lights. Neanderthal? Wonder what this would look like. Let's replace the at import with this one. And let's use this font name. Or this one. I mean, it's a little bit nicer, I guess. I think this glow is too much though. Oh, it's not a very strong glow anymore. Now we probably would need that extra blur effect anyway. I think it's a cooler font to use for that. Cool. Any questions?
No, and it's so cool.
Cool, cool. We have time for another one. How about a scrolling animation? Let's say I'll keep this here. Let's just add another one below this one. Let's maybe I'll wrap this in that div after all, and call this one class equals neon. Oops. Why does this keep popping up? What just happened? Right. So this will just be for the neon. Now let's add another animation below this. Let's say, just gonna copy paste this here. And let's call this one. What do you call it whenever? What do you call the thing? There's a word for it, I forget. Let's call it scroll. No, it's marquee. Okay, so we'll have a marquee animation, and this will say, it'll be an H1 again. We'll write in here, special offer. Okay. We'll probably need to set up the HTML a little bit different in this one. Also, I'll use a different font for this one, so maybe the font family of Neanderthal. I'll just add it to the neon. And then my other, let's see, the class of marquee dot marquee. This one, color hashtag FFF. You can see it. The other one is absolute position. That's why it's showing up below the other one, even though I placed this one first. I think if we give neon a height, well, actually, we don't need this to be position absolute anyway, so let's just get rid of that. There we go. So marquee H1, also text line center that. Actually, we don't really need to, but we are gonna make this position absolute. Do we need to make it absolute? What I'm gonna do is I want to put this inside a div, and I want this to move from left to right, and I want it to get out of the container and disappear, and then come in again from the other side. For that, if I use position absolute, I could say left 100% to get it completely off the screen. If I use position relative, I could also move it without doing the weird thing where the page ignores it. I wouldn't use 100% left though to get it out of the screen. I would have to put a fixed pixel value, and that might not be as convenient if the page is going to get bigger and smaller. It might not work as nicely as a percentage. So that's why I'm tempted to use position absolute. But anyways, let me just do relative so we could avoid doing extra stuff. Let's say new animation after this one. Add keyframes. Let's call this one marquee. And this one's a little more simple. We don't need all those percentages. We could just say from left 0 or from left negative 500 pixels to left 500 pixels. I'll just add this to the H1 here and see what happens. Animation. marquee, say 5 seconds, infinite. Linear. I don't want that easing in. So you can see it's starting from left, negative 500 pixels. So off the screen to 500 pixels. Normally it's just right here, but it's starting from negative to positive, so it's going from left to right. And I could maybe, we don't need 500 pixels negative left. Say like negative 10 pixels. Let's try negative 100 pixels. Just enough to be a little bit off the screen. I think that's fine. Let's do 80, 180. Okay. And then to left 500 pixels. So this is why I didn't want to use relative position, because using a fixed number of pixels, like I have to have it at a specific size for it to like work nicely. Also, it'd be nice if we could see the container for it. Let's make this div have a background color and background color. What color should we make it? Just go white. Change the color to black. Let's also do a little text transform. Text transform uppercase. And font family. Let's go with, what was it? Tilt neon. Maybe it wasn't tilt neon. I could just go copy it from here. Anyways, let's finish this up with giving the marquee a width. Let's say 500 pixels. Let's make it centered on the page with margin auto. And you could still see the text as it leaves. So we need to also add overflow hidden. So that way it disappears. You don't see the text outside. Although, why did it get bigger when I added overflow hidden? That was weird. I don't know why it's getting taller when I do that. Let's change the height to 1 EM. Oh, that's too little. 2, 3. And then this thing is position relative. Let's change the line height maybe. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyways, that's enough. Okay. So for your assignment, well, we'll meet again tomorrow.